What does it take to make workshops work? And how can we facilitate collaboration that sticks and leads to results? My name is Miriam Hartness, and with the Workshops Work podcast, I'm on the mission to find the magic ingredients that make workshops work. Today, I'm a guest on my own show, and Michelle Howard is interviewing me about Never Done Before, the community, the journey, and most of all, the learnings. So stay tuned. And by the way, if you don't have pen and paper at hand to take your own notes, scroll down to the show notes to download my free one-page summary. And now, enjoy. Hello, Michelle. I am very excited to have you on the show today, to have me on the show today. I'm very grateful that you invited me to be a guest on my own show, speaking about the Never Done Before Facilitation Festival and community. And who would be a better host of this conversation than you, who has been on my podcast quite in the beginning on the topic being overdoing. I've been a member of your learning program around that book. You've been on the community as a co-creator, a contributor, and now you're part of my wisdom circle, my Never Done Before mastermind. So thank you so much for taking the time and care to guide this conversation. So
my pleasure, Miriam. And I want to say thank you for the trust, because this is your podcast and I feel great responsibility to do it justice. But I know that you've been fantastic at shining the light on other people and their learning journey and their trajectory and their understanding of facilitation. And I only think it's appropriate that we shine the light on you for a little bit, because you are creating an amazing space for magic to happen. And that is never done before.
Thank you.
So, Miriam, this amazing event, Never Done Before, community, Never Done Before, isn't new. You and I were both involved last year. And I am very curious, what is Never Done Before about this year, given that we did it before last year? What's Never Done Before about 2021?
This is a very good question. And somehow in my mind, it was always already in 2020. I thought, okay, Never Done Before is a concept, and there must be something in 2021. Although, it cannot be totally what it was in 2020. And I think the main difference is that in 2020, it was mostly about the festival. Mm-hmm. So how can we bring a group of expert facilitators together so that they can contribute a workshop experience in a way that they have never done before. Mm-hmm. And from this experience of festival, we, I think it was Martin, one of our guests, he came up after the festival with the idea, what if there was an advent calendar afterwards? Mm-hmm. So we can redo some of the workshops in a sequence of 24 days until Christmas. And I think this was the trigger that then led to the idea of Never Done Before 2021. There was this experience of meeting every day for a new experience and the community feeling that evolved around it. And I think after 24 days, it was like meeting family. Mm-hmm. When coming together. So I must say that I felt totally depleted after 2020. And my therapist said that, I seem to have postnatal symptoms. I gave birth to this idea. And then it was just like empty. And in January, I thought I lost my mojo. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I was already pregnant with the next idea, which was, what if Never Done Before 2021 was the Burning Man of facilitation? Kind of this event which is creative, which is exploratory, which brings community together. And I reached out to Burning Man, and they made very clear that it's impossible to use the term or the name in anything which is not Burning Man. And this then developed to the idea of creating a community, a kind of residency. Like there are artists in residence programs. What if we had a facilitators in residence program? So we meet, we build community, we create something together, we test, we learn, and then we see what emerges from that. So that's a long answer to your short question. So what is Never Done Before 2021? It's more than a festival. It is a community of facilitators. We grew to almost 90 from literally all over the globe, 24 countries. And it's very emergent, I would say. And then it will culminate again in the 24 Hours Festival. And this will also be different than last year, but the key concept will remain the same. And I think maybe one last thought to end this chain of thoughts is that when I started the podcast, I thought that I will be done after 20 episodes, because how many facilitators can you interview and how many hours can you fill on the topic, what makes workshops work? And here I am with over 120 episodes. And there's still something to learn. And there's still so many great facilitators I'm not even aware of, and I haven't interviewed yet. So I think the same applies to Never Done Before. There's always something we've never done before.
Wow. It sounds very rich. And I know from participating in some of it that there's such a diversity of experiences that people can be part of. Do you want to just talk about that range of experiences? Because I know it is very diverse and people might not be aware of those opportunities.
Yeah, that's a very good observation. And thank you for pointing this out. And we have discussed internally, especially also with you, what does it actually mean never done before? Because something that is never done before for me might not be never done before for you. And how can we actually use this term across such a diverse community? And I think what it boils down to is the willingness to take a risk. So to do something of which you don't know whether it's going to be successful. Will it work? So for instance, Dove, he came up with the idea, what if there was a workshop in total silence? And although at the festival in 2020, we had sessions on silence, but there was always speaking involved. So I think Dove's session was one that took me out of comfort to an extent that I wouldn't have expected, but also triggered so many learnings. Because what it was about was, what does it actually take to make someone feel comfortable in silence? How do we know whether someone is still on track? And if not, why not? Is it because they're struggling with the tech? Is it because they need thinking time? Is it because they feel lost? And you don't have the means of communication or verbal communication. Also, what is the impact of music to create a rhythm? And what I found fascinating is if we take away the auditive clues, we have to have full focus on the session, because we cannot just zone out a little bit or open another tab and then follow what's going on through the ears. No, we have to be there and take all the clues we're getting fully in order to follow and also to keep the group together. So that was one example. And maybe another example, and I love the story around it, because it shows how the idea of Never Done Before has evolved and has now manifested somehow. Grace Lau, she sent me an email saying, Miriam, I just came out of the shower and had this idea, and I think it's a Never Done Before idea. Like, yes, finally. If this happens, if facilitators have an idea and then think, oh, this could be for Never Done Before, I thought, okay, this is exactly where I wanted it to go. And her shower idea was basically, what if participants would all speak in their mother tongue? So what is it about communication that is linked to the words we're using and the words we know that others understand? And what part of our communication is actually totally independent of understanding the words we're speaking? And what was amazing was that we do understand each other, even without understanding the words. And when this is taken away from us, we focus suddenly on tone of voice, on pause, on visual clues like what is the facial expression, what's the body language. So all of these things. So these were maybe the two somehow extremes of Never Done Before workshops. And then in other times, it's rather hosting a conversation that we haven't had before. So for instance, Rebecca shared a workshop where we challenged all of our facilitators' assumptions. Facilitators should facilitate. Facilitators should be in charge of timekeeping. Facilitators should be neutral. And then really unpacking all of these and thinking, okay, what if this wasn't true? And playing around with that.
I love that the thread there, which is around that we do our best learning when we take risks and push ourselves out of our comfort zone. And that seems to me to be a bit of a thread of Never Done Before, that by taking things to their edge, well, like when we're taken to our edges, when we then have our aha moments and learn something. And I'm hearing that in each of those examples that you've given us. And I wonder whether that's a bit of a common theme about Never Done Before, taking with comfort, but still stretch.
Yeah. And I think that's what brings the community together and makes it so tight, is that we collectively explore the edges and get out of comfort while still being in a safe space. And I think that's why, for me at least, it's so important to carefully curate the community. So I'm very strict on not allowing tourists.
Yes.
So, I just want to go to a workshop and just sneak in and learn something. Yes, it would be wonderful to have this kind of open space where everyone can benefit from our learnings. On the other hand, if I'm asking expert facilitators to take the risk of trying something that they don't know whether it's going to work or not, I don't want to push them off the cliff and not knowing that down there is not a group of caring, loving peers to catch them when they fall and celebrate them for falling. Because there's something we can learn. Yeah.
And it's interesting because that caring group of peers, to me, is such an interesting quality of the people that I've observed being part of Never Done Before. You've used the term community a number of times, and those peers are the community. I'm wondering what else stands out to you about this Never Done Before community. What are the qualities of the people? What do you notice about the people who are stepping into the Never Done Before space? Who is this community?
Who is this community? Yeah, what is the red thread across this diversity, this global diversity? Because we have all sorts of facilitators. We have those who are very clearly into the process facilitations, others who are more into hosting, others are more in liberating structures, more into coaching, and maybe most wouldn't call themselves facilitators. I think what brings us all together is the curiosity to learn new things and get to know new perspectives, other peers. So how are you doing this? It's creativity that comes along with that. It's playfulness. So I think the joy of playing and trying out without knowing the outcome and without needing to know. And generosity. I think that's what I find heartwarming is whenever we invite founders of new online collaboration tools to share a beta version of their tool. So their reflection afterwards is always that they've rarely experienced such generous feedback and participation. And I think that's the beauty of it. So all the community members share the willingness to support each other and to grow together. So that the collective, the community, the collaboration prompts competition.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's lots of training and conference opportunities out there. At the click of the button, you can access, such a wide range of things. And it does make me think what's unique about Never Done Before. And I think you've captured it beautifully. There is a shared generosity and a shared curiosity and a support of each other as peers, which you wouldn't get if you just stepped in and out of a one-day training or a 4 series of something, because this has been an ongoing experience over the last nearly 12 months now, hasn't it? Yeah.
And this collective learning, to see how some of the residents have really evolved over the course of the residency.
So who's a resident? You're using that term. Who's a resident?
So residents are the members of the community. So the theme of this year is facilitators and digital residents. And participants sounds, although it implies that they're participating, but it's more than just participation. It's co-creation. So, and for me, a resident is someone who is just part, who fully emerges in this project. So how was it, if I may, for you to contribute a workshop? Because you have been part of Never Done Before on so many different levels. So last year you supported me and the community to co-create the festival. You contributed several workshops, and now you're part of my wisdom circle, my little mastermind who helps me to avoid the biggest mistakes and take the right decisions and to make sense of everything that's happening. So what's your perspective on Never Done Before?
I really like what you said about the peer learning, and I feel that whether I've been a participant in a session, and I've been a participant in sessions, whether I've been planning and delivering a session, or whether I've been supporting the process through the wisdom circle, I am learning in all sorts of different ways. So it's not that I'm just passively delivering something that someone else might benefit from. It's definitely the principles around peer learning, around co-design, mean that each of those experiences are a growth experience and have challenged me in different ways. And I really like the sense of connection that is growing because people have been participating over a number of months. And I think that's, it's a bit like tilling a garden. The more you keep working on the garden and the more you put the compost in and that sort of thing, then the richer the growth experience or possibility becomes. So I think it's going to be very exciting to see how that manifests in the festival later this year. What are you most excited about for this year?
Good question. I think it's partly just the curiosity of what will emerge, because in February we started with a blank canvas and this program emerged. We now have, I think initially the idea was to have 3 workshops per month and that's it. And now we have a workshop per week, plus a mastermind, plus gatherings, plus demo sessions, plus a mentorship program. So for now, the plan is to have a 24 hours festival on November 19th, where podcast guests contribute their Never Done Before workshops. And we have just started the call for submissions. And what we have also envisioned this year is to have a space for our residents to contribute a workshop. So together with...
What will that look like?
So together with Bastian Quinzel, who wrote The Learner's Journey, which is basically applying the principles of a hero's journey to workshop and training design. And now we applied it to a mentorship program. So based on the principles of collaboration and co-creation and experimentation, the residents can find a companion. So they have to match with at least one other person. And then they are invited to co-create their own Never Done Before workshop. And along the way, they meet different mentors, and they will test their workshop design in the community and get some feedback. And then, have the big graduation in November. And I'm curious to see this emerge.
It's such a lovely example, again, of people being taken to their edge, but in a supportive way. Mm. And I think it struck me the growth this year in that diversity of opportunities for people to stretch themselves. And the mentoring is, yet another one of those, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And the beauty for me and what excites me about it is nothing of that was planned. So someone comes up with an idea and says, what if we had a mentorship program? Okay, great. Let's try it out. How could this look like? And then I cannot even put my finger on the process or what has helped to make this come true. But I think it was just a sequence of different conversations we had in the wisdom circle, in the gatherings, in before and after some workshops. And now through the platform, our community platform on Circle, it brings apparently random ideas together that suddenly lead to something that manifests, grows fruits.
Yeah.
Hey, since you are listening to this podcast, I was wondering whether you get enough opportunities to exchange, practice, and experiment with other facilitators. Have you heard of the Never Done Before Facilitation Festival? It's a 24-hour global event that is co-created by its participants and delivered by some of the most popular workshops.work podcast guests. Visit NeverDoneBefore.org for more information. Use the code workshops.work to get a 20% discount. The festival starts as soon as you join. Now, back to the show.
And you know what? I'm really struck as you're talking about how I think it takes a very particular kind of person to be open to those suggestions and those opportunities, and then to be able to shape them and take them somewhere. Mm. And you've been a wonderful, let's go back to the garden. You've been a great gardener in the way that you have created this fertile ground and been open to what was planted and whatever seeds were sown. And, I wasn't intending to grow carrots, but that's good. Because it would be easy to have your own very strong vision and to then just follow through on that and drive that vision home. But this hasn't eventuated like that. It's definitely been a co-creation where you have shepherded people through, which makes me think about you and your own growth. And I wonder what you've learned about yourself, what's grown in you and about you through this quite complex process of Never Done Before. What have been your growth opportunities?
Thank you for asking that and for reflecting on me in the way how I shape that. I think I'm very happy to hear that you perceive me as this person who doesn't push her own ideas forward, but remains open to hear what the community wants and to help them shape this. Because I think this is maybe the biggest challenge and also then the biggest growth opportunity for myself, that I tend to be quite opinionated. So if I have an idea, I want it and I want it now. And if something doesn't work as I imagine it, there is this pain in me, like, why doesn't this little child? But I think through this journey, I have developed also the confidence of the community and learning from these other perspectives. And I think it's sometimes when I step out into the normal world of non-facilitators, I get reminded that I cannot take it for granted to have a community of yes-anders. So, and of gentle challenges. Because I remember very well some of our wisdom circle meetings where I came with I thought, fabulous idea. And then Michelle would go, yes, and what if we did it totally different?
I hope it didn't come across like that.
And I think that's just a growth opportunity as such. And I think overcoming my own fears, I think I felt and I still feel overwhelmed of all these new opportunities and possibilities and all these new tools. And I wouldn't dare to test them out just by myself and then try it on an upcoming workshop. And this is maybe the pure selfish motivator of creating this community and curating all these opportunities. Because basically I'm also doing it for myself. So a few years ago, before I started my business, I had a coffee with two founders and I loved what they were doing. And I remember very well how I was sitting there and just thinking, oh, I would love to work for them. So this kind of excitement. And then they asked me the question, do you see yourself as a business person? Would you start your own business? I said, no. I'm the kind of person who, if someone has an idea, I'm the front runner and I will do everything to implement that. But just running by myself, I would never dare.
Mm.
And I think
that's
funny, right?
Wow.
And I think the core is still true. To do something just by myself, I would never dare. But if I have one crazy person who would stand next to me and say, yeah, Miriam, I think that's a cool idea. I am ready to get out of my way to pave the road and to make it happen because I feel responsible for my promise and for the other person and now for the community. And I think this is on the flip side to answer your question on the learnings and my own growth. The flip side is this constant feeling of responsibility. And I think that's the inner work of a facilitator in general, that it is not our responsibility, or the experience of others are not our responsibility. And as a curator of the festival, I feel myself confronted with so much judgment that, you cannot do it like this, or you have to do it like that, or is everyone feeling safe? Are really everyone getting the best experience? Is this really how we define never done before? So all these kind of gremlins in my head. And then, telling myself, no, it's part of the journey. It's not about me, it's about them. And it's not my control. And even if an experiment doesn't work out, that's the core of never done before, because we're going to learn from it.
Well, that's you're taking that to the extreme, aren't you? Because you're going to go on a break soon, and you're leaving the house and you're giving the teenage kids the keys.
He was going to plan the party first.
What made you think that was a good idea? You need to explain. I'm being flippant, but you're handing over
Yes.
to the space. Yeah.
So I think the idea came from Julio, of course.
Yes,
And
our mad Mozambican friend.
Yes. Also one of the loyal supporters and co-creators of Never Done Before. And when we discussed that, everyone told me, Miriam, you need to take a break. And this year, maybe a little bit earlier than last year, not to run yourself into exhaustion. So I blocked my own calendar. And then I thought, okay, since I am present in every single workshop and every single session happening at Never Done Before, I'm there to open, to welcome, and to celebrate the speaker. And this kind of became the routine. So if I would suddenly not be there, it felt strange. So I thought, okay, so Never Done Before goes on a holiday break. And then Julio asked, so what if we're planning a takeover? What if the community would take over Never Done Before and just do their own?
Leave us with the keys. It'll be fine.
Yes. Reminds me of, my parents leaving the keys to me when I was a teenager. Not always a good idea. And my reply was what is usually my reply. Yes, let's.
Yes, let's.
What's the worst thing that can happen? Nothing. I mean, the good thing about the Never Done Before garden is that nobody can sustainably destroy it. So it's not like my parents' apartment where suddenly the sound system didn't work anymore and there were holes in the carpet. So let's see. I'm now curious actually to see who will pick it up. Because another learning was also to curate ideas and not to run with every idea, or if I start running with an idea, to also be open to kill darlings early. Because for me, I'm now in this position where on a daily basis, I get ideas not only for myself, but also others throw their ideas into my lap. And I think my general state of being is, let's do this. And yes, how might we? But there's only that much time we have. There's only that much attention span we have. And there's only that much Never Done Before that we can actually communicate, which is already complex enough, how to communicate something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
So this novelty. And I came to realize that if there's too much novelty in too little time, it creates more confusion than excitement. Mm-hmm. So we tested a big mural board, which was beautiful, where we thought, okay, this is the one-stop shop where we collect feedback, where we ask for help, where we store the recordings, where we can sign up for sessions. And then came to realize that it's just too complex. It's too complex, and it requires a knowledge and mastery of the technology that we cannot expect from everyone. And we cannot expect the mental work from residents to keep up with weekly new things.
And there seems to be a balance, isn't it, between taking risks and stretching people and making it easy is not quite the right word, but facilitating involvement with ease. There we are, facilitating participation with ease. Yes. There's a bit of there's a sweet spot there.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I now put a big sticky note on my fridge asking the question, what if it was easy?
Yes.
And I try to keep this along in everything that I do. And also, how can I make the process and access easier for participants? How can I make the process easier for myself and everyone who's involved? And I think one of the biggest challenges was as mundane as finding a way to inform a global audience about the times in which a workshop takes place.
Yes, a 24-hour festival is different in Same 24 hours, different time.
Yes. Where last year we had facilitators showing up 24 hours late for their own workshop. And what can we do to avoid that?
Yeah.
And trying and testing different scheduling tools, different calendars, different community platforms. We started on Slack, and then I realized that it's just too hectic and too noisy. And I never wanted to have a community platform because I thought, who am I to expect people to open another tab in their browser and to learn yet another format? And then it took me a while to also grow the confidence that what we are doing is worth opening another tab. And what we are doing now is growing a seed. So it's just the beginning. So we're about 90 now. And we'll be at least double next year. So to have kind of a home for this growing community was definitely worth the effort, I believe.
And you were talking before about the not taking everything on, not making things too complex. And I'm thinking that as we now move into the festival in November, what lenses or what filters are you bringing to that process of curating, a really high quality, special experience? Because you've got so much to choose from. You've got so many facilitators involved. You've got so much energy around different ways of doing things. You've got so many different platforms. So what's your curation filter or filters that you're using for this next phase?
I think an important filter are the learnings from last year, where it seemed almost too much, where we had, I think, 4 parallel sessions, and it was very difficult for the festival guests to pick and choose where to go, left alone the tech side and how to actually go to the workshops. So this year, in terms of curation, I invited the podcast guests to fill in a form to submit their workshop. And it was also one discussion we had in the Wisdom Circle and Outcome. Okay, what are maybe hashtags that they can put on their workshops? And what is the information that as a participant of the festival, I need to know in order to choose which experience I want to join? Last year, we had the label of comfort zones. So what kind of shoes would you like to wear when walking into this workshop? And this year, it will rather be, what is your own journey when entering the festival? And we're trying to build example paths for the festival guests. So for instance, if you want to learn about the new trends in facilitation or really explore the edges, then we would recommend you to visit these workshops. If you're more on a self-discovery, self-reflection journey to explore your facilitation mindset, skill set, tool set, then we would recommend you to visit these workshops. If you are in the co-creative mood, where you want to be in a creative space with other facilitators, then we would recommend these workshops. So these are just examples. For now, I don't know how these journeys could look like because I don't know what the workshops will be about. But this is, from a curation perspective, what I would want. And from an experience perspective, I would like the festival to be a space where you come and from moment one, no, even from before even the date, I want everyone to feel that they're about to meet their community. So this sense of belonging shall start even before the festival, so that it's like this excitement of going to a class reunion. And you'll meet people that you haven't seen for decades. Maybe you've never met them. But you will have the opportunity to really connect through a shared purpose and a shared interest and through peer learning. So the festival will happen on InSpace, which is a video conferencing platform. And I will not use it for the workshops themselves, but as a space where you can really meet the other guests. And then depending on what you're seeking, you can meet them at different spaces. So maybe after a workshop, you want to have a fireside conversation to reflect about the learnings. Then there will be a breakout section where you can go there and then meet other facilitators from around the world to have this fireside conversation. Or it's a 24 hours festival. So at one point we need to eat. And I don't want anyone to sit lonely in their kitchen and have their lunch or dinner or snack. No, there will be a picnic area. So bring your food and share your food with someone else while having a conversation where it doesn't matter that you're chewing at the same time, because this is the purpose for it. Or a graffiti wall. So we have so many visual facilitators and creative people who want to take notes of their experience and share it with the group in a more artistic way. So what if we had also one area with a graffiti wall being a mural or mirror board where you can then share your visuals, your graphic recordings?
It's just blowing my mind a bit, because I go back to the original thinking that you had for this, and we were all going to meet together in Amsterdam, and you had a venue picked out, and we were going to sit and eat together and do those things. And then how the impact of COVID has created this opportunity to build something very, very different and to create some of those similar experiences online and also very different experiences, whilst holding true to that notion of community and belonging and finding your tribe. You know, that seems to be the consistent thought or thread, yeah?
Yeah, indeed. It feels so long ago that
I know.
you were very close to actually book your flight tickets.
I had booked my accommodation. I knew exactly where I was staying.
Yeah.
But yeah, isn't that interesting, that and how we've all sort of adapted, and I'm not going to even use the word thrived. It's like, what was that saying that we used, that calm seas never made a skilled sailor? Here we have been in these really bumpy oceans of change and difficulty to find something very special and very unique and very different. And I know it doesn't stop here. So that was can we finish maybe with this question, that this is a process for you, I know, and that you're really committed to Never Done Before going on past this year. You know, we're now in the second year. What are you daring to dream about in relation to 2022? What are you daring to dream?
Love that question. I am daring to dream of a course, a co-created course, where we explore the building blocks of what does it take to create, to dream of, to create and to facilitate a Never Done Before workshop. Because I think it's like a muscle that we train. So as the example from Grace, who suddenly had a Never Done Before idea, and I'm sure she's not the only one. So now I hear it more and more. But also to dare to facilitate and to host such a session, not knowing whether it will work. So what does it take to get there? And I think within the community, we have everything that it takes. So how might we bring together these nuggets and learnings to curate them into a program, and then have this program alongside a community where we can then meet and learn from each other and test and grow? I think this could be cool.
Wow. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like the learnings from the risk-taking and the experimentation start to become learnings in their own right, not just the content of the sessions themselves. Yeah. So the process has been very innovative and very new. And I think that's such an interesting parallel too to what business and organisations and even government are having to do right now is innovate process because the processes that we've used in the past, many of them are not fit for purpose, and people are having to find a new way of working. And that's one of the things that you're modelling, I think.
Yes, not necessarily to the modeling. So modeling, thank you. Yes, that it's this entire process. And I think key learnings for me there are we cannot do it by ourselves.
Yeah.
I struggled so much with asking for help still last year. And that's why I worked myself to exhaustion. And I remember that in January or February, when I reached out to you and the other wisdom whisperers, it took me so much courage to actually take that step and ask, would you want to contribute your wisdom to Never Done Before and to me mainly? And it was so rewarding. And to lean into this uncertainty, admitting that we don't know and that it's okay, and then also finding space for this vulnerability of not knowing and allowing the co-creativity to bring ideas together. I think that's maybe the most scary part, but also the most rewarding part, given that at the end, there is someone who also takes a stance and says, okay, and this is the way where we're going, and this is what we say yes to, and this is what we say no to. Also difficult and so important, because I think if we final reflection, very final, I think the moment that Never Done Before suddenly took off and we achieved this critical mass in terms of residents, community members, and workshops was when I believed in the value we're creating and was able to phrase a genuine invitation for others to join me in this journey.
And so what's the invitation now to people who are coming across this for the first time? What's the invitation to them? People who are not yet part of this community, what's the invitation?
I think if they self-identify as facilitators or find passion in facilitation, although they might not call themselves facilitators, that there is a community of practice and experimentation where they can find their tribe and grow confidence and competence in growing facilitation skills that go beyond the workshop space. And if they're joining us before August 15th, so before the summer break, they can still join the residency and access, I think by today, we still have 40 workshops scheduled until November. Afterwards, so from August 19th, the residence itself will close its doors for new members so that we can then really focus on the festival. So if someone just came across Never Done Before now, then get excited for the festival to get a taste of what this is all about, and then join us for next year on whatever there is to emerge.
Well, thank you so much for all the energy that you bring to this on behalf of those of us around the world who have had the privilege and the excitement to play a role and join the community. You really have created a very special space, and it's super exciting to see where it's going to go next. You're a star, Miriam.
I'm not sure whether I should use this one.
Not a star. Have you got a star?
This one.
Have you not got a star? Where's it? Oh, yes, that's it. I should have a star for you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for your curiosity and for your support, personally and to the community. Appreciate that.
Thank you for staying tuned and listening to the show. I appreciate your attention, as I know how busy you are. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and engage by sharing your comments and thoughts, and visit workshops.work to download the one-page summary. I'm looking forward to seeing you back at the next episode, and I wish you a fruitful day.